Hi there, weighted grade 9 learners. It's great to be back. Hope you were able to gather as much energy as you could because surely you need them to have a great start this first quarter. This is Teacher Christine, your English learning buddy. Always here to guide you, always here to inspire you. Make sure to wear that best smile of yours so we can have fun learning together. Prepare then your pen, learning activity sheet, answer sheet, and let's get this done. Before we begin with anything, let's run through the objectives that will guide us all throughout our lesson.
Our lesson is based on the most essential learning competency, which is use conditionals in expressing arguments. Specifically, you are expected to first identify the forms and uses of the zero conditional sentences. Second, use zero conditionals in expressing feelings, arguments, pieces of advice on given situations. Lastly, compose a poem using verbs in the zero conditional form.
With those in mind, let's continue.
Have you ever been asked to answer questions similar to the following? If you were a superhero, what would your superpowers be? Or, what will you do if you win in a lotto?
Were you able to see what is similar to all of them? You are right. Each question has the word if, and that is our focus for today's topic. As always, make sure to listen and take down notes.
What are conditional sentences? Let's go over the following descriptions. 1. Conditional sentences are sentences that express a condition. What does condition mean? It is a situation or circumstance that can only happen if something else occurs. Another, conditional sentences are sometimes called the if sentence because there is usually the word if in a conditional. A typical conditional sentence is also expressed as if P, then Q. One more thing, conditional sentences use different English verb tenses. A quick review of the tenses will bring us back to simple tenses and perfect tenses. I hope you did not forget these topics about verbs. Now in the simple tenses, we usually have the present, the past, and the future. While in the perfect tenses, we have the present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. To see how verbs transform with the 6 examples of tenses, let's make use of the verb write. The present tense would be write, writes. The past, wrote. The future, will write. Present perfect, has written, have written. Past perfect, had written. Future perfect, will have written. If you think you need to do more practice or to write more examples, you can always pause the video before you proceed. Conditional sentences consist of 2 parts, the if clause and the main clause. We cannot construct a conditional sentence without the 2. That's why we will discuss more about this as we proceed with our discussion. To end the short background information about conditional sentences, let's take a look at the types. The first one is the zero conditionals, or otherwise known as factual conditionals. The second one is first conditionals, or predictive conditionals. The third one, second conditionals, or hypothetical conditionals. And the last type, the third conditionals, or counterfactual conditionals. For our main discussion, let's have the first type of conditional sentence, which is the zero conditional. We begin by looking into the structure. In other words, we have to answer the question, how do we form a zero conditional sentence? Or how do we construct a zero conditional sentence? As mentioned earlier, a conditional sentence is made up of two parts, the if clause and the main clause. The question is, what makes the zero conditional sentence then different from the other types? Well, first, we need to know how we can form the if clause and the main clause. That brings us now to the patterns. So for the if clause, we follow the pattern if plus subject plus the simple present tense of the verb. And for the main clause, the pattern is subject plus the simple present tense of the verb. Now take a look at the verbs to be used in the two clauses. Have you noticed something similar? Yes, you are correct. Both make use of the simple present tense of the verb. Again, here are some examples of verbs in the simple present tense. Listen or listens. Bring or brings. And smile or smiles. Let's have an example. The first step is to take note of the pattern for the if clause and the main clause. Then start by bringing down or copying if. Next, think of a subject, and in our example, we use you. Continue by choosing a verb in the simple present tense. In the example, we use stand and add other words, in the rain. After which, put a comma. So the example for the if clause is, if you stand in the rain. Reading it, the clause has incomplete meaning, so we have to continue. Following the pattern for the main clause, we think of a subject. Let's have you. And a verb in the simple present tense, this time we pick get. And add wet. We end it with a punctuation mark. Looking at our example of the main clause, we have you get wet. Putting the two clauses together, we now have if you stand in the rain, you get wet. See, we were able to construct a zero conditional sentence. Let's continue. We again look at the if clause, which is if you stand in the rain. I have a question. What do you think is it trying to show? Or what is this if clause trying to tell us? Yes, it is showing an example of a condition, or it is telling about a condition. Therefore, an if clause is also called the condition clause. How about the main clause, you get wet? How is it related with the if clause? You are right again. It is the result of the condition. Because if you look at the condition, if you stand in the rain, definitely the result or the effect would be you will or you get wet. We can therefore say again that the main clause is also called as a result clause. You might be asking, is it always the case that we start the zero conditional with the if clause? The answer is no. To better understand, let's discuss the if clause position. Altogether, let's read first the second example. If you hit metal, it expands. Let's identify the if clause. Yes, it is if you hit metal. Where is it placed? Or where is it positioned? At the beginning of the sentence. Let's see the next one. Metal expands if you hit it. Where is the if clause placed this time? Correct. It is placed at the end of the sentence. Based on the examples, we can conclude that the order of the sentence can be reversed, or the if clause can be written either at the beginning or at the end of the sentence. Simply knowing the structure or form of the zero conditional sentence is not enough to understand this type of conditional sentence. We have to know why the tenses of the verbs to be used need to be in the simple present tense. What is behind the simple present tense? The answer lies in the uses. The first use is zero conditional sentences are used for present, real, or factual situation. Here are examples. If we eat well, we become healthy. Or we become healthy if we eat well. This example shows a factual situation because it is really true. If we do not eat well, the tendency is we become sick. The second example is if he visits his grandparents, he brings fruits. Or he brings fruits if he visits his grandparents. This example still shows factual situation even if it is not true to many or it is not true to all. But to a particular individual, it is still true. The second use is zero conditional sentences are used for talking about general truths. Let's take a look at the examples. If you mix yellow and blue, you get green. Or you get green if you mix yellow and blue. Another, if you heat ice, it melts. Or ice melts if you heat it. These two examples show or tell about general truth. Why? Because the result is really 100% true. The result cannot change. It will always happen. Like when you mix yellow and blue, it really gives you green. It will not give you red. It's a fact. And one more thing, we are talking about in general and not a particular situation. The third use is zero conditional sentences are often used to give instructions using the imperative verbs in the main clause. The examples are, if you do not understand the discussion, ask the teacher. Or, ask the teacher if you do not understand the discussion. Another example, if you message your teachers for clarifications, be respectful. Or, be respectful if you message your teachers for clarifications. Now, where are the imperative verbs used in the two examples? So in the first example, we have the verb ask. And in the second example, we have the verb be. These are all imperative verbs because they are action words that commands somebody to do something. That is why, in the first example, the students are being commanded to ask the teacher if they do not understand the discussion. In the second example, students are asked to be respectful if they message their teachers for clarifications. That's it. We are done with the 0 conditional sentences. I hope the examples are enough, but I still encourage you to try writing your own examples as well. Thank you for listening and participating.
I hope you had an amazing time. Do not forget this information about 0 conditionals. 1. 0 conditionals are used when we talk about facts or things that are generally true. Second, they are called 0 conditionals because they are not really conditions. Third, scientific facts are covered by this type of conditional. Fourth, 0 conditional statements use verbs, verb phrases in the present tense, in their if clauses, and in their result clauses. It is now time for you to answer the activities found on pages 4 to 7 of your learning activity sheet. Do not forget to write your answers on your answer sheet. And most importantly, when in doubt, always ask for help. And that's it for now. Keep that smile, and I'll see you again next time, only here at DepEd MP TV.